So I'll the slides on.
Linda, I take it you've got the link, okay?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Right, everyone. So we're live on YouTube now, just so that you're there. I'm just going to admit Councillor Morby to the meeting as well.
I think I've done it already, Guy.
Have you? Right. Thanks, David.
Right, are we good to go yet, Guy? Or
Yeah, it's just gone 6:30, hasn't it? So happy to hand things over to you.
right then, members. Oh, hold on. Chris Morby's still not joining for some reason. I think we'll just give it a moment because Chris. Yeah, is that Chris? Oh, he's going right, time again. Right. I think that's everybody. Right. Yes. Good evening, members. Welcome to our select committee meeting, Wednesday, the 15th of July, 2020. I'll do a quick little bit of housekeeping first. I'm sure we're all getting very much conversant with this now, but all microphones will be muted apart from myself as chair and Guy and Hannah as officers. And when members wish to speak, if you could please indicate using the raise hand function. So to that end, could I please see raised hands from everybody, please, if that's convenient? I'm not virtual, not literal, please, members. Right, I'm just going to check. Right. So, yeah, Councillor Mercer, have you got the? Do you know how to raise the hand virtually? It's not.
No, I don't. No, I raised it physically. So
right, we do need. I want to be able to see because it just helps with the chairing the meeting because we can see what order it's in. Seems we've got a captive IT consultant here in the form of Darren. Darren, would you be able to just give Councillor Mercer a bit of direction as to how he may raise his hand, so to speak?
Councillor Mercer, if you open your participants list, it should open as a bar. On the toolbar, there should be an icon that says participants.
Oh yeah, see it, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
If you open that, in the bottom corner, bottom right-hand corner of that, there should be a button that says raise hand. When you open that participants list.
Ah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Raise hands.
Yeah, you click the same button to basically lower hand.
Aha, right. Take it away.
So that gives us Councillor Jacquin. You are handless.
Okay,
Eric, do you,
still
know,
handless.
do you know how to use the raise hand function, Eric?
Can't find it yet.
Darren, over to you again, please, if you won't mind.
Councillor Jacquin, if you look on the toolbar, so you may have to hover over the bottom third of the screen for it to appear. There should be a little icon that says participants.
Not yet.
It'll be next to where you've got a mute function and a video function button.
Not found them either.
Eric, what machine are you using? You're using your iPad?
Yes, thank you. Via YouTube.
Via YouTube.
It says live on YouTube on the top right hand corner of the screen.
Yeah, that's just to confirm it.
Right, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, there should be, if you press in the bottom third of the screen, there should be a toolbar appear. And on that toolbar,
toolbar at the top.
Okay, is there a button on that that says participants?
No. Oh, there it is, yeah.
Yeah. Right, if you open that, it should give you a list then of the people in attendance. And
Yes,
then
got that.
in the bottom corner, there'll be a little button that says raise hand.
Hang on a minute. Will there? All right. Not appeared yet.
You may have to scroll it.
I'm trying to scroll down, but there's lots of invitations. And I get to Andy Brown and Bill Mercer and nothing else below.
So on that toolbar somewhere, there should be 3 buttons: invite, mute me, and raise hand.
I've got the invite button. No, I've just got the invite button only.
Is there a little icon with 3 dots on it next to that?
No.
Is it possibly off the edge of the screen? Can you move the toolbar further onto the screen?
What's the toolbar now? Doesn't appear to. Can I raise hand physically and progress the meeting?
Yes, but we're going to have to really, Eric. But it is something that we do need to be conversant with, because it will allow the meeting to flow. And in fairness, I don't want you saying after the meeting that you were busy waving a hand and nobody picked up on it. But anyway,
I wouldn't say that.
We'll keep an eye out for Eric doing the royal wave or whatever form of hand waving you wish to assume. Now, Councillor Brown, welcome to the meeting. We've just been doing the raise hand function, and I'm going to take a stab at guessing that you know how to do the raise hand function on your computer. Could you give me a raised hand there, please? Not literally. Excellent, excellent. Full house, right. That's great. So, agenda item 1. Apologies for absence, guys.
I'll hand over to Hannah to read out the apologies. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. We've had apologies from Councillor Sutcliffe, Harborough and Pig Hills. May I please take a roll call as well, if that's all right?
That's no problem.
So members, as usual, just unmute as you hear your name and let your presence be known, if that's okay. So we'll have Councillor Brown.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Hull.
Present.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Jacquin.
Yeah, present.
Thank you. Councillor Mercer.
Present.
Thanks. Councillor Metcalfe.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Morby.
Present.
Great, thank you. Councillor Shuttleworth.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Soloway.
Present.
Thank you very much. That's it, Chairman. Thanks.
Thank you. Right, minutes to confirm. Meeting held the 19th of February 2020. Seems quite a long while ago now, but anyway, have I got a proposal and a seconder, please? I've got a thumb up from Councillor Morby. I can see some of our members are waving their digits at me, but that isn't the way that we do things, is it now? I've got a hand from Councillor Shuttleworth. Thank you, Councillor Shuttleworth. We'll take that as seconded. Sorry, members, we're going to have to get used to using this sort of technology. So the sooner we break our duck, the better, really. So have you got that, Hannah? Proposer and seconder. Thank you. And public participation. Is there any members of the public who wish to speak or have indicated they wish to speak?
No members of the public in attendance. No representation submitted, Chair.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, members. If I can take any indications of declarations. No. Any hands? Virtual, of course. Right. So moving on. Review of members' IT. Obviously, members will recall the presentation we had given to us by our lead member, Councillor Brockbank, and Darren Maycock, the officer who's in charge of this project, and they've come back to us with a further report. So if we can unmute Darren and Councillor Brockbank, and over to you, please.
Okay, I'm not going to go through the report chapter and verse. But what I will say is that in putting together the pilot, it did prove to be a very worthwhile exercise, and I do want to offer my thanks to Councillor Brockbank and Soloway for the time and effort that they've put into that. Certainly, the feedback that we got from the trial, we've learnt in terms of the configuration. So there's been a few niggles, as you'd expect, in terms of how it's been set up. And that's informed the future rollout, if you will, and we've adapted the training documentation to suit that. So as I say, really positive feedback. In the main, it's been very successful. So I think it's proven that what we set out to achieve is in fact delivered through the solution. So it does all the things that you'd expect. It allows the video conferencing. You've got the productivity software on there, the Office. And I guess more importantly, and this proved invaluable, is the ability for the technical team to provide remote support to the guys in terms of working through the trial and resolving the issues. So that has been really useful. I mean, that's in terms of councillor time alone, just having to, haul the equipment into the office just to basically get something sorted or something loaded on it. Certainly there's a big time saving there for councillors. Not necessarily the officers involved, but certainly for you guys. So with the approval from the councillors as part of the pilot, we basically ordered the equipment. That equipment was ordered and we took delivery of it on the 6th of July. They've since been built and we're now into the rollout phase. So you will have all received an email inviting you to come into the office on one of the slots. It takes approximately 2 hours, sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less in terms of the orientation. And that'll run as quick as basically you're comfortable with in terms of confidence with the equipment and taking on board the stuff that the guys are going through. In addition to the initial orientation, what we've done is we've pulled together a bit of a checklist test that you guys can take away. So it's a takeaway exercise, if you like, and it's really just so that you've got something then away from the orientation test to just make sure that it's working appropriately for you. Because the key thing is that this is going to deliver a solution that meets this new way of working and attending virtual meetings. So at present, we've got 13 more bookings already confirmed for councillors coming in, and they'll be done over this next 2 weeks. At that point, obviously with Councillor Brockbank and Councillor Soloway, we'll be about 50% through the rollout, and we're just working with the remaining councillors now in terms of negotiating slots. It's recognised that some of you do work, and so you know what we're trying to be as well is flexible. So we're saying if the slots don't fit, just let the guys know and they'll try and accommodate as best they can. You know, we want to try and be as flexible as we can, recognising, you know, that you guys have got commitments as well. So that's kind of it in terms of an outline of the pilot and the report going forward. We've brought the solution in slightly under what was anticipated. So it's around about £460 odd per device. I'd budgeted for about £500. So we're kind of within that, within 30 odd quid. So that's good. As I said, there is a slight difference in terms of the licensing cost for this solution over the previous iPad solution. And that difference is around about £3,000 a year. But I'm accommodating that within existing budgets. I've made a few savings that are not related to this project at all. It's around renewal of networking costs, and it means that I can accommodate that additional licensing cost without having to increase any revenue budgets, which is always a good thing, obviously. So that's all I had to say in terms of the pilot and the intended rollout. And I don't know if Councillor Brockbank had any observations or Councillor Soloway in terms of the pilot and how it run and how they felt it went.
Right, well, Councillor Brockbank first, and then Councillor Soloway, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I found during the testing and since that this equipment is certainly doing the job, and it's doing the job well. The laptops are a little bit slow at starting up, but we've gone for something that is adequate rather than top of the range. So we've got a mid-range laptop. So don't expect it to be absolutely super duper, but as I say, it certainly does the job. As far as the iPads are concerned, I think we all understand that it's all or nothing, that when we do change over to the laptops, then it will, I'm afraid we'll have to hand in our iPads, which are very dear to some of us. The iPads certainly did the job at the time. However, things have moved on, and certainly with COVID-19, that's accelerated the need for change our equipment. And we are now working, I think, with most of the committees. I'm not quite sure Darren might be able to clarify this, but I think most of the committees now will be working virtually. We've yet to have a full council, a virtual full council. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there. So certainly a lot of progress in that area, and I want to thank Darren and his team. I think they've done a marvellous job with the equipment. They've done a marvellous job with the software. As far as members are concerned, and the testing was really quite mainly the focus, which I was very pleased about, because from a when you're a technical person, sometimes it's difficult to see it from the user's point of view. But certainly the testing was, for me, it was easy to carry out, and it was very thorough as well, and it covered almost all of the requirements, and we used all of the equipment. The second screen, I think, yeah, you're going to love it or hate it. And it takes a bit of getting used to. And I have found it's been a little bit difficult with the cursor. The wonderful thing is that it's only one mouse and the cursor jumps from your laptop to your big screen. And it's fantastic. And at the moment, I'm using my big screen for the select committee report that Darren has produced. but the cursor, when it jumps, sometimes I lose it and that sort of thing. But that's just, it's like the hand, you know, raising the hand. We all have to get used to these things. The benefits, other than for remote video conferencing, is remote support by the IT, and that is a tremendous benefit over the iPads. I think Darren's sufficiently gone into the costing, so I'm not going to touch on that. And I think he's explained the justification, the cost-wise, very well. And but as far as the remote support is concerned, I think the standardisation of the equipment and the fact that it is locked down, and you might find members might find that is can be a little bit frustrating at times, but it is. I think it's essential. It's essential from a legal compliance point of view. It's essential from the remote support point of view, and it's also essential so that members and users aren't introducing anything onto the network that can threaten the network. Members will, as we've seen tonight, we're all, including myself, we're all still getting used to the software, and as members pick up their equipment during their training sessions, they hopefully a lot of those issues will be satisfied. And I think, am I right in saying, Darren, that you said you've got 13 booked? 13 more booked?
We have, yes. Yeah.
Right. So at the moment, how many members, I'm sorry, Chairman, through you, can I just ask Darren, how many members are currently using the equipment?
At this present time, it's yourself and Councillor Soloway. We've got one more member booked in for this week, so the communication has gone out. Most councillors that have responded have opted to do it next week. So we've got 8 next week, and then a further 4, I think it is, the following week. So by that time, we'll have, as I say, 50% of the councillors over on the new equipment.
Okay, thank you for that. So yeah, all in all, the results, I think the software, the hardware, the training, the testing, all very good. The only drawback, and it's not really a drawback, is the speed of the laptop. But I think we've explained that already, that it's the medium range laptops. They're not super duper top of the range laptops because we don't require them. We don't require the storage space because that's all going to be stored on Craven District Council's network. Yeah, it's good. And it also gives us access to the intranet, not internet, intranet, the Craven District Council intranet, which I have found extremely useful. I can use Teams and I can call up Darren. I can even call him on video, and it's and I can have little meetings with a member and officers without having to use Zoom, without having to pre-program things. No, it's very, very good indeed. But just moving on very quickly to the members area drive, which you will be referred to as the K drive in I think in the report sometimes. Let me just pick up my notes on that I've put on here. Was the idea for the secure members area is to have, what I'm hoping to see on there are things like the members protocol, policy documents, for example, documents like dog fouling. Let's say we're having a problem with dog fouling in our areas, in our wards. Rather than having to ring up an officer and the officer find out which officer it is, or emailing the officer, and or very often it's Guy who gets the call and says, where can I find this document? Hopefully in time those documents will be there. That's going to need building. It's going to need cooperation between democratic services, between other officers, users, and IT, Darren as well, and members as to what it is they need to see on there. And I'm very hopeful about that, quite excited about it. So yeah, I think the whole thing is a success story. The only thing about the population of the KBAC, sorry, let's take Linda. The only thing about loading documents onto the members area is the officer tab. And I don't know whether or not officers, Guy and Darren, I think this is their area. We as members, and maybe you as select, may well need to give them some support in finding some officer time to populate that area. And that's it. And thank you very much, Guy, and thank you very much, Darren. Great job.
Right, Councillor Soloway, our other guinea pig, so to speak.
Okay. Well, first of all, I've really got to put a shout out to our IT team who helped me out very much when they passed over this laptop to me. Also, please, if we could also remember that this IT team have not really even been locked down. They've been keeping things going for this council to enable us to take our tentative steps in virtual meetings right from the start. They've been in the building with all the possible risks that entailed, and I've just got to get, nothing less than my absolute admiration for them for getting us to where we are now. Never mind new equipment, because it's such a steep learning curve. And we've all helped each other out, a number of times when I've emailed other councillors, and not even people in my own group, to help them get onto a meeting. So we've all pulled together very much on this. I thought I'd missed the iPad because I got one of the very first iPads. Well, I think at the end of the first day, I didn't miss it at all. I think this machine's great. I don't find it that slow to start up, but there again, perhaps compared to my own laptop, which is slow anyway, and I was using that for meetings at the time. I think people who've struggled with the iPads and maybe not even got used to their iPads even now may well find this machine a lot easier to use, because it's a PC basically, and it's based on laptops that we normally use. So I think we'll find it quite a lot easier. Plus the fact that you can get in touch with IT, they can take charge of your screen and actually demonstrate literally to you how to do things that otherwise you might struggle with. The screens that you pick up, they are big. Just bear in mind that if you want to set a screen up in your office or wherever you are, you will need space for what is equivalent to a reasonable sized TV. It's not a small screen at all. It is very good. I used it yesterday at a planning committee. Was it yesterday? Was it the day before? Yeah, let's do it at the planning committee meeting, and it was very useful. And I thought it was. I'm not using it now, but for a smaller meeting like this. But for a planning committee meeting, I think it's absolutely invaluable. And I think there were some issues with yesterday's planning committee meeting with members still using the iPads that couldn't get on at the planning committee meeting, and I just find it difficult at all. I tend to find with Zoom that it doesn't always work via the link, and you have to type the passwords in, but that's just a bit of a glitch with the program of Zoom. I'm a fan, basically. It's small, it's compact, it looks very tough as well. You know, it looks like it'll survive being put in and out of councillors' bags and put in the back seats of cars and transported around for you know, for when we hopefully get out of needing to do virtual meetings. And I think that's the plan as well. It's got to work for both. I think having virtual meetings is very good, and it's saved a lot of time. There will be at some point where we'll end up in a room with the equipment in front of us, and I think that we've very, very much thought it out. Once again, thanks to the IT team. They're magnificent, a truly fine body of people, yeah, I'm looking forward to us all being able to these machines, use them. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Andy. Thank you both to Linda and Andy, Councillor Soloway and Councillor Brockbank, for their time and effort taken to beta test these machines for us. And of course, as has been reiterate what's already been said, thank you for the IT team for their patience in this. Down, I appreciate you passing that on to your staff, and their efforts are much appreciated by all members. So, have we got any questions from members? Raise your virtual hands, please. Is that a technical glitch or lack of interest? Right, Councillor Shuttleworth. I shall just unmute you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It isn't a question really, but it's a compliment to Darren and his team for producing this guide which we have with our agenda and reports. I use Windows 10 anyway, and I use Office 365. So I am reasonably familiar with them, but I think this guide is excellent. I haven't tried it out. I'm on first slot, first day, next Tuesday. So there's a possibility I may change my opinion slightly, but I think it's very encouraging, and thank you very much, Darren. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Hull.
Thank you. Yes, just to clarify the training arrangements, I did ping back to Claire yesterday, I think. Will she be back confirming that by email, I presume? Or
yes, she will.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, good. Looking forward to it. I have to say, I've struggled with my iPad, as you know. I think it's a fairly old one, so all fingers and toes crossed. Thank you and the team. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Metcalfe.
Yeah, it's not a question. It's just to say cheers, appreciate it, and I think the speed of which it's happened has been excellent, particularly now that most of our meetings are going to be online. So looking forward to it. Got my training booked, and thanks to Wendy. Thanks to Linda and Councillor Soloway. Much appreciated.
Right, thank you. Have we got anybody else who wishes to speak? Councillor Soloway.
Yeah, thank you. There's a more general issue here. I've absolutely no problem with it. The equipment's fantastic. The support is absolutely brilliant. But I am aware that there are some councillors who are in areas where the broadband coverage is very poor, the 3G coverage is very poor, and they've had, and I know we're working on this, but I just wonder if there was an update on those more difficult to reach areas. I don't think there's a resistance to the technology. It's just literally some of the areas that they represent, and I'm sure that some people here have the same problem. Are just difficult to connect to, and whether we're going to be able to get around that.
Darren, would you like to come back on that one?
Yeah, we recognise that there are still some areas where connections are a bit of a problem, and obviously advice will be given when we're going through the training. One of the things that you can do, I know it's not ideal, but it helps if when you're doing a video call, if you switch off the actual video and just do it via audio, so you're still participating, but it certainly cuts down on the bandwidth used in terms of the connectivity. There's no real solution for connectivity in an area that's generally got poor connectivity anyway, other than to make compromises. So again, the advice will be simple things that you can do with the equipment, some of the things to try in terms of, where you locate your router. And again, that'll be picked up if those concerns are raised as part of the training, that they'll be addressed and advice will be given as part of it. But I mean, it's not something that I can say, yes, we can deliver a fast connection into every one of those homes, because it's not something that we can actually do. But we'll provide whatever guidance and advice we can. And obviously, if councillors have got difficulties, then we'll do our best to try and resolve it in the best way that we can. And just coming back onto, I know Councillor Brockbank raised this in terms of the speed of the device. Actually, the device itself is quite a capable device, and you've got the specification as part of the report there, so you'll see that it is a solid state drive. So the boot up is quite quick, but what you've got to remember is, and this is how it differs from a domestic device that just launches into the operating system. Remember, it's a corporate solution, so it's loading the corporate operating system with all of the policies that are necessary to make it secure while it's on the network, and it's establishing a VPN connection, a secure network connection as part of that setup. So it will always, no matter what equipment you've got, it will always be a bit slower than the equivalent home device. But I'm hoping that it's going to provide the solution that you need. And I picked up on when we had the conversation or the discussion about this at the last select, Councillor Staveley, you raised it. We were looking at a slightly smaller screen, but we decided to go for the 22-inch model because I think it is worthwhile getting the larger screen. And there's the option that you don't have to use that all the time, but it gives you the capability. So when you do need to use it, you actually can. So again, it's a reasonable screen. It's not a big brand screen, but it gives you a lot of capability and a really good display for the money that we actually paid for those. And again, sub £100 for what is a really good display device. And remember also, if you've got equipment, there's nothing to stop you from plugging that laptop into an existing screen that you might have if you wanted to do that to save on space. But we wanted to make the provision there so that you'd got the choice. You could take it if you wanted to.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I did notice that you've gone for 8 meg, not 4, which was obviously an improvement on what I was expecting, to be fair. And I think certainly anecdotally from what Councillor Solway mentioned about his experience with the planning committee, I think that slightly bigger secondary screen will come into its own, certainly with things like planning, for example. Councillor Mercer, I shall just unmute you.
Hello.
Yep.
I just wanted to come back to the fact about how to reach areas for broadband, and I'd just like to commend Andrew Laycock from Economic Regeneration, who's actually just got our street on the superfast broadband, and it's been brilliant. It's because we're just a little bit out of the sticks, and it's an unadopted street, and they couldn't service from below ground, so we had to do way levers for the whole street, get permissions, and get a contract from each residential house. So yeah, it's possible, and if anybody else has areas within Craven like this, Andrew Laycock's your man. He organised it lovely. Thank you.
That's good to hear. I mean, it's worth noting that, as Councillor Shuttleworth pointed out earlier, he's adapted to his own environment by moving to his penthouse suite now, where he currently enjoys a far better connection speed because of his proximity to his router. So I think members are adapting to this new landscape that we're dealing with. Councillors, any more questions? Anybody? Any virtual hands? I'd like to ask Darren, have we got any plans for provision of cases for the laptops to mitigate any potential damage, or is that going to be on the head of the individual councillors to provide that? And if that's the case, would you have a specification you would prefer?
As part of what we provide, it'll be provided with a soft case to just enclose it, but nothing that basically encases the laptop itself, if that's your meaning in terms of ruggedization. So if you wanted anything beyond what will be provided, which will be a soft case, keyboard, a mouse, screen, then, and I think Councillor Soloway's demonstrated.
Yes, I'm going to say, members, if you look at Councillor Soloway rather proudly showing us his case, that's exactly what I was thinking of. So that answers that question, thank you. The cost and benefit on this, obviously we've sort of touched on the immediate benefits. Do we feel that there's any further cost benefits? Have we been able to articulate? I mean, this might be a democratic services question, in fact, because I'm just mindful that as we keep having these meetings, I just wonder if there's been any work done to actually try and give a ballpark figure of the cost of a meeting in person over a virtual meeting, just to try and put a bit of a marker in the ground as to the benefits of these virtual meetings. Darren/Guy.
Thanks, Councillor Staley. It's something we need to. It's something we need to go away and have some give some further thought to. I've got to say, it's not a piece of work that that we've conducted yet, but more than happy to go away and come back with my findings and report them back to you.
Can I just interject there just for 1 second? I've actually had a conversation with Rob Atkins, so he's leading obviously the green strategy. And Guy, what he's going to be doing, he's going to be collecting the information in terms of reduced CO2 emissions based on reduction of travel. So I think he'll be having a conversation with you at some point in terms of the benefits from doing the virtual meetings. So it's a discussion that's already started, and I think Rob is going to start collating that, and obviously that'll be shared with councillors as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think that will be a very useful piece of information, not only the cost benefit, but also, as I say, as you quite rightly say, the benefits for the green travel plan for councillors and and officers. I have got Councillor Brockbank and Councillor Brown, so I'll unmute Councillor Brockbank first.
Yes, as far as cost savings are concerned, of course, with more suitable equipment, we're hoping that we won't have to supply paper copies anymore. Members will still be able to print their own paper copies if they want at home, but that's something that we need to look at. It's a work toward at this moment in time. The intention is that let's get everybody familiar with virtual meetings and with using the equipment. Once we're comfortable with that, once we're familiar, then we can look at reducing the amount of paper. Of course, all that paper has to be posted out as well as produced. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Then Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I do think we should be recommending that when we come out of lockdown completely, that we make the ability to attend a meeting virtually part of our policy into the future, because people, particularly if you live a long way up the Dales or a long way from the council office. I mean, for me, it's easy. I drop into the council offices, no problem. But for people for whom it's a major problem, I think it would be good practice for us to continue with it available on screen in the room so that other people could see the absent participant.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor. I mean, my sense is that may be a piece of work for democratic services to look at, but it may well be something that this committee ends up reviewing as well. But obviously, that's something to, dare I say, look forward to, having the option of coming into the meetings or not. But yeah, there certainly seems to be some credibility with that idea. So, members, any other questions, comments, or the likes that anybody would like to make on this before we look towards our recommendation? No. So moving on from that, then I would sort of suggest that we recommend this to policy, although it's obviously already been enacted anyway. We are rubber stamping something that's already been decided, but I think it's fair to say that we agree that this is a definite step forward and an improvement on what we had and will help us do our jobs. So Does anybody any difference of opinion on that? No, I'm seeing some thumbs up, virtual ones. Feel free to use virtual ones if you have the right. We'll take that as read. Thank you very much indeed, members. Darren, thank you for your time and efforts on this. Appreciated, and your continued work with those of your department. And Councillor Brockbank, thank you very much indeed for your efforts. By all means, if you wish to stay on, Councillor Brockbank, for the rest of the meeting, just to see how Select works, feel free. You're shaking your head.
No, I'm going to leave. Thank you.
Oh, that'd be like that then. Right.
I've got some preparation to do for tomorrow and some.
Yeah. We get that a lot. Don't worry. Right then. So, thank you for your attendance. On to the next item. Annual report, item 6. I believe, Hannah, this is over to you. If you're ready, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. So I'm sure members have had the opportunity to have a look through the report and the appendix already. But just to recap, the Select Committee's annual report provides a summary of key work and achievements that's done throughout the year, as well as areas of ongoing work and potential areas for review. So the recommendation is to consider and agree the Select Committee annual report for 2019-20. And that's about it, Chairman.
Right, thank you very much. Members, have we got any questions or comments that they would like to make? Eric, you Luddite, you're not using your virtual hand, but anyway, we've agreed that you can use your real hand. So I shall just unmute you. I'll try to unmute you. Yep, there we go.
Like
Eric,
that?
over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, the Select Committee, the C&D Committee meetings. Halfway, 3/4 of the way down the piece, Hannah talks about Fiona Ansell from Road Safety County Council coming to visit, and we requested a further report back. Have you any updates as to when it's likely to happen?
I'm suspecting that has been thrown into somewhat of the turmoil that everything seems to be suffering from right now.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm asking.
I know. I mean, Guy, have you heard anything back from, or Hannah? Have you heard anything back?
Yeah, I don't mind answering this one, Councillor Staley. Yeah, we have attempted to follow it up a couple of times. It's been somewhat of a challenge, to say the least. We'll keep following it up. I think the intention would be to bring it back to a future meeting, Select Crime and Disorder meeting. So we will continue to do that. We'll continue to pursue it. I think it is something that's probably dropped off the agenda somewhat with the with all the work that's gone into virtual meetings and getting those up and running. But yes, it is something that we'll follow up. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then we've got Councillor Hull.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, obviously being relatively new to Select, I was really impressed with the presentation of the annual report. You know, it was succinct, but you know, hit all the key points as far as I understand. Obviously, I haven't got the history the rest of you have got. I was just wondering, therefore, just for my own information, how wide a circulation does this document get? As I say, because it's presented very nicely and easy to read, I wonder whether it goes outside of the organisation or not.
Yes, I mean it's not a piece of work that we've done before. I think we've achieved so much as a committee over the last couple of years. I thought it was only right that we captured some of the key achievements that we've undertaken. That's I think all the credit's got to go to Hannah really for doing that, because she's put all the hard work into producing this. So I take your point about maybe. In terms of publicising it, in terms of what we've done, we could certainly do more if the committee are minded to approve it. We could certainly do more in terms of sort of publishing it on the council's intranet and looking to widen the circulation a bit more. Yeah.
Well, even potentially a splash in the Craven Herald.
Could certainly give that some thought, Councillor Hull. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an aspect, I think, that doesn't get the kind of coverage that policy, etc., or planning would get. But it just broadens an understanding of what we're trying to do, and particularly the chasing down of improvements in efficiency, and the crime and disorder stuff, which is, I would have thought, quite local interest. So well done, Hannah. Excellent piece of work, I thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I must admit, I do think there will be some credence in trying to get the Craven Hill to publicise this, because I think certainly it will give residents some reassurance to know that Craven District is critical of its own work and will test itself to try and better its performance. I know the Craven Hill has been not always quick to publicise our meetings and the results of our meetings, but with the right encouragement, I'm sure that they'll be able to find their way to fill some of their sometimes empty pages with some of the finer points of our report and possibly a link to the full report. But yeah, certainly does a good point, well made, Councillor Hull. Right, so I've got Councillor Shuttleworth. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I support Councillor Hull's suggestion wholeheartedly. I think it's excellent, because if we don't promote ourselves and tell the wider public what we do, then they simply aren't going to know. And I think we should take every opportunity to tell them the range and depth of the work that we do as part of their spending their money, basically, and to provide a better overall service in a number of aspects for the electorate of Craven.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's a lot of agreement here. Councillor Metcalfe, over to you in a moment once you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to agree with Councillor Hull and
Sorry, Councillor. So
you want me to shut up?
No, it moved you on the list just as I was about to press unmute.
Yeah, whatever. But
that time.
But no, I just want to express my agreement with Councillor Hull and Councillor Shuttleworth. I think it's really important that this information is shared, and what I feel particularly strongly about is the impact that we have on crime, because certainly in the ward I live in, crime has been massively reduced due to a lot of work with the police and setting up a formal Rural Watch committee. And I think that this information provided to the public, then it actually gives police a good press, which, believe me, they haven't had in my ward up till about 12 months ago, and it's still a real battle. So from my perspective, I just want to agree with that, but particularly a major focus needs to be on the crime and disorder area and all the work that's going on.
Right, thank you. I mean, dare I ask, Hannah, do you think that it would be possible to just slightly flesh out a little bit more, anecdotally, the work that Councillor Metcalfe did? Because I know that she arranged a rather excellent presentation within her own ward from, I believe, was it Stuart Granger, the local sergeant? Is that right too?
Well, it was organised with Julia Mulligan came along.
Yeah.
I organised Julia Mulligan to come along. It was organised with Inspector Lorraine Crossman-Smith, but there was members from the Rural Task Force. Sergeant Stuart Granger heads up that in North Yorkshire, and also the local neighbouring sergeant, Sergeant Paul Evans. So, and we got quite a reasonable audience from my ward. Most, I think just about every parish was represented.
you think, so I mean, dare I ask, would you be happy throwing together a few lines that Hannah could sort of maybe incorporate into this, just anecdotally? Because I think obviously that's something that came out of the crime and disorder meeting. And I say credit to yourself for organising that. And I think certainly, once again, gives reassurance to residents that we are taking these things seriously. And there is a very proactive role for Craven District's crime and disorder function in terms of trying to help the police deliver the service that we all like them to. Would that be something you could do, Councillor Metcalfe, in conjunction with Hannah?
No, of course, yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really asking it.
I got the picture.
Yeah, well, you know, no, well, that's no problem. Sorry, Hannah. So yeah, tiny little bit more work. Are members happy to accept some slight amendments on a bit of a round robin email basis, and then just because the main body of the report, absolutely fantastic, Hannah. Well done. I think
Very
just
good, yeah.
that little bit extra in there might just be. I think it will be anecdotally. I think it will be interesting for residents to hear, because sometimes our work can appear a little dry to the outside world, and as I say, to sort of give it a bit of a real face, because that was, I say, very well attended, I believe, and a very good presentation, which I was hoping. I mean, Councillor Morby was hoping as well to replicate in his own ward, and unfortunately, as things went, I think Eric's been attacked by a giant thumb, or is he indicating he wishes to speak? No, maybe not. So yes, I believe that there was another meeting we were hoping to have organised, and it's something that we may come back to. So yeah, if that's okay, I'll just. Sue, you want to speak again?
Yeah, I just want to ask the timeline.
Hannah?
Just want to ask you what the timeline, Hannah, when would you like this information, or just a couple of lines, paragraph? When would you like it?
I'll double check with Guy.
I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any immediate rush for it. So I mean,
weeks fine.
Yeah, the next couple of weeks. Well, I mean, it's something. I mean, we could form some words if you like. We've got minutes to the previous meeting. If you wanted us to come up with something and then run it past yourself and Councillor Staveley, and then share it with the rest of the group, we could do that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I can add to it, tweak it, and send it back.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just think
it's out completely, because I mean, I wasn't involved with this. This was work it out between yourselves. That'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I just probably need to add a few things about what's happened in my ward and the impact that things like Rural Watch have had. So yeah, that would be great. That prompt me then to do it. So
yeah, okay. Well, I mean, we've got some of the key points that are captured from the minutes, so we can make a start on it, and then we can send a draft over to you, and then you could tweak it as you see fit, and then we can share it with the rest of the group, if that sounds
that'd be
reasonable.
Grand. That'd be grand. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So yes, so apart from the small amendment, I think we've got a broad agreement that is acceptable. Everybody okay with that? I'm not seeing any hands up to complain to the contrary. So well done, Hannah. Thank you very much. Oh, there's some thumbs up. You're doing well. Right. So next item is the work schedule. And Guy, would you like to take over on this for the moment?
Yeah. I think I've got a tough act to follow from that, Hannah. So I'll try and do my best. So I've submitted a draft work schedule for members. There are a couple of gaps in there. That's to include potential areas of review that we might want to look at, which I'll just touch upon in a minute. You've also got the standard items in there. So there's things such as customer service, absence management, recommendation tracking now that which we now do, which I think has been a really successful part of the committee's work. Just to flag up a few other things that members may wish to consider. And my suggestion would really be to perhaps drill it down to maybe 2 or 3 maximum key areas of work. So I don't think we want it to be so long that it becomes unmanageable and we can't have a sort of meaningful impact in terms of the work we do. So If I just go over a couple of different areas of work that have been brought to my attention. CLT were consulted, and they've come up with looking at building control. So this is following on from the work that we did around planning enforcement. I'm led to believe that there's going to be a couple of changes to I think the staffing structure. I think a couple of members of staff are leaving. So that's clearly going to have an impact on the service. I think one of the suggestions is that we look at potential delivery models and other ways of doing things. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Another area that was highlighted by CLT was the emergency response to flooding, with a specific focus on keeping gullies clean and also the role of communities. So that's a second area that was highlighted by CLT. Another area that's brought to my attention, and I don't know whether Councillor Jacquin might want to expand on this a little bit further on in the meeting, is background reasons and future solutions for the lack of affordable housing. That's an area that Councillor Jacquin has highlighted to me. So I'll leave Councillor Jacquin to expand on that. And then the final area that I just wanted to bring to members' attention, again, it's just a possible area for review. It's all down to the committee. Is the council's response to COVID-19, particularly in terms of the impact on various council services. So that might be something you may want to look at later on in the municipal year as things develop. So those are just a few ideas to float with you. We can build that into the work programme, the work schedule as we go along. But those are just some initial thoughts for you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Brown to speak. I have a sense that I might know what he's about to suggest. Just remind members that we can't be too specific if we're dealing with any particular member of the staff or subcontractor. We can't be naming names and so on, so we've got to be commercially sensitive as it is a public meeting. But Councillor Brown. Seems to be unmuting Councillor Brown.
So
Councillor Brown,
muted again.
You're there. Thank goodness.
Yeah, so I wouldn't dream of raising individuals' names. Never crossed my mind. As 4 issues, I think I'd like to consider us looking at. First is just if we're in an atmosphere where we're short of money and we're concerned about funding, I'd like to have a report on our use of consultants, obviously with names blanked out, but I'd like to know exactly how much we spent on consultants in each area, for what purpose, and how it was commissioned, so we could have a feel for the total spend and what areas of the council are spending it. I think it's something that we should have strong controls over, and I want to be satisfied that we've got those controls. So that was the first area. Do you want me to shut up at that point and come to the others later?
Well, are you talking all aspects of the council's work, or is it just specifically? So I know this has obviously been raised outside this meeting by another member, and it seemed to be something more specific in terms it was to do with the planning department, wasn't it?
I'm definitely not being specific. I want to know, as a council, how many consultants and legal advisors have we hired, how much it cost us, what they did, and how we commissioned it, and what the total cost is. So I don't want to see a list of names that said that we paid X to X person. I don't think that's appropriate. What I want to see is how much are we spending, and that it was in X department for X piece of work, and it was tendered by X process. So that's what I want to see a summary of. And I appreciate that's a piece of work that might take, I see we got October, November meetings. I would have thought we might be able to arrive at that kind of information by either October or November. and put us in a position to be able to say, yeah, we are comfortable, the council's in control of this, isn't overspending, or we are concerned that the controls aren't as tight as they might be, or the spending in that area looks like it's heavy. Just think as a scrutiny committee originally, we should have a view on area of expenditure. My theory is there a possibility it is not as controlled as well as it might be?
I have a sense that this is going to be a question for HR / finance. Finance for the bones of it, but HR for the detail. I think initially, Guy, is it possible to write to HR and see what their view is on their ability to provide this information? When we can, if it gets to the stage where we're actually looking at some form of report that may have commercially sensitive information in, we can go to a press and public excluded position. I'm sure that wouldn't be untoward, but I think really we need to get a sense of if there's something, if we're chasing a ghost, or if there's something there to be had. Certainly, I was obviously expecting something that was relating more to the planning function of the council and their use of consultants. But if you wanted it more broadly, understandable, then yeah, I think we need to get an answer from the HR as to what's feasible to provide to us. So if we can get that, would that be a good starting point, Andy?
That seems like a very reasonable approach, that we first scope out what is, get a feedback to us of what looks possible, what sort of timescales. I mean, I'm not trying to have the council encounter great expense in order to control expense. No. I'm trying to understand whether this is a set of processes that we are top of and feel comfortable with the overall bill for, or whether it's something that shocks us when we see the overall bill.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So I think that's something that we'll come back to at another time, but we'll get that response and that will inform our next step on that front.
So maybe we get a report to the next committee of what's possible.
I think, yeah, I think we'll get a response from HR, and then we can sort of discuss it from there and see what's possible. As I say, I don't want to preempt anything too much, but let's see what we can get. Now,
do we do other three, or do you want me to do that?
No, carry on. You have the floor. Come on, what else have you got to tell us?
Well, just the other one is obviously we're monitoring the climate emergency action plan, and I didn't know whether that went to policy committee or where it went to. I mean, I would actually prefer it to go to policy committee than us, because I think it's policy committee that should be monitoring it. But if they aren't, who is? So do we know who gets the report 6 monthly on how we're doing on that? That's part of the action plan.
I suspect Councillor Liss, in his lead member role, will be partly involved. But Guy, would you have a comment on this?
Yeah, I mean, you're quite right. In his role as lead member for Green and Craven, it'll be Councillor Liss that's leading on it. I think my understanding is that it's going back to policy committee. Rob Atkins is also heavily involved in that piece of work as well. So we'll make a note in the minutes, and we'll chase that up and come back to you about that.
I mean, that's fine with me if it's just checked up where it's going. As I say, I prefer it went to policy, but if it's not going anywhere, then we perhaps need to make sure it does go somewhere. The third was at a meeting about 18 months ago, a member suggested we looked at town centre and the risks to town centres and how we actually sustain them. And I know we've recently made an appointment of an officer focusing heavily on that area of work. And I wondered if it was something that as a committee, when that's had a chance to get a little bit down its line, given what's happened with COVID and given the additional risks and changes that might take place in town centres nationally, whether as a committee we'd be well advised to spend an evening just hearing what the issues are and seeing whether we could contribute anything to the understanding of the best way forward for those town centres after a difficult experience.
I think my sense is that this is something that economic development would probably like to present to all members, and I'm going to preempt here. I'm going to suspect that they probably are going to present something to all members. I can't see it not being, brought forward to us. Certainly, I think, guys, is it possible to just pass on Councillor Brown's comments to David Smurthwaite for consideration? As I say, I'll put any amount of money on it that there's going to be something coming to all members. I think that would be the most productive way of actually dealing with this. In terms of the collation of the data, I'll be fairly confident there's no shortage of people currently trying to do that work as best they can in these shifting sands. Obviously, there is a substantial piece of work, an investment going on in Skipton as we speak, which obviously we've just gone through the procurement for the main contractor. So, yeah, I think just to raise a flag with the economic development on this wouldn't do any harm. And fourth point.
Yeah, so again, I'm comfortable with that approach. If it's going to go to all councillors, then it's better than coming to the committee. But if it's not got a home, then I think I'd like to see us give it a home. The fourth thing is just when we do the reports on absence management, I wonder if we should be thinking slightly more broadly about that at some points in the year, and having a more full HR report. Possibly an equality analysis, for instance. I'm not sure that we scrutinise the data on how we're moving about sexual equality, race relations, makeup of our staff. I don't think we systematically see data on that kind of stuff. And I just wonder whether it ought to be added in when we do an absence manager report.
I think that's a question that could be asked at the meeting of the 9th of September. I mean, dare I say it, we don't enjoy possibly the same scope for as quite as diverse a makeup of officers and staff members and even councillors as some parts of the world, partly because of the size of the authority. We know not a very big authority, and of course just because of the makeup of the residents in the immediate area. But I think it'd be a worthwhile question to ask at the 9th of September meeting, Andy, if you want to put a flag in that.
Okay, well, I mean, basically, we must have the data because we're required to have it. I just felt it ought to go to some committee to have an eye on it and see what it meant. I take your points about, what was already appropriate actions might be more complicated than, but I just think somebody ought to see that data in committee form in a systematic way. Anyway, I'll shut up at that point.
Well, you're not from Yorkshire, so that's fairly diverse as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I did realise I was doing missionary work with you all and coming over the border to help you out with a biggie. But the only time I've ever been booed in 3 parliamentary campaigns where I admitted to coming from Lancashire.
Good grief, you don't learn, do you? But no, thank you for your points, Andy. Well made. I think if we can send something then to Jackie, Guy, if that's okay, reference the equality issues that Councillor Brown's raised. Just ask her to bring that information with her, because at least if she's forewarned, then she can, we're not catching a cold. I've got Councillor Hull to speak, who should be currently getting unmuted. Councillor Hull.
Right, thank you, Chair. It's really interesting to hear from Guy and Councillor Brown there. Can I just weave a couple of things together? Just picking up the COVID-19 issue, it occurs to me that the absence management reporting, which obviously could continue in the way it's always been done, but surely we need to drill into that and really understand some of the impacts on the staff of the lockdown and all those associated issues, rather than just see a regular routine, if you like, report that we've been used to looking at, because presumably there could be a lot of learning coming out of that, particularly, and heaven forbid, we do have a second spike or whatever into the future. So I guess my suggestion is broadening that semi-routine, if I can put it that way, piece of work there. Can I, just one point, just moving across to Councillor Brown there, and the use of consultancy. Just in my own head as chair of audit and governance, we do have a look at where contracts have been awarded where there has not been any three tenders or whatever as a minimum. So in terms of opening up that topic, if you are going to go down it, it might be worth starting with the finance department just to check out who is creating that report. Obviously that covers all services in the council. And obviously we've got the history there of those reports going to the audit committee. So those are the two main points really. I think but the main one for me really is starting to understand the impact of the virus on our workforce and how, and possibly even councillors, I mean, with what we're doing today, and to really understand, make sure we've understood what we've done, and obviously we're looking for ways of improving the efficiency, effectiveness, whatever, of how we may have to alter that moving forward in a worst case scenario. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I think I'm minded that the subject matters that have been suggested, I think certainly the building control one, which I noticed Councillor Shuttleworth getting noticeably animated about, and I'm suspecting very strongly that he would perhaps be amenable to chairing that working group. Might be one to sort of bring in as a starting point the COVID-19 response. I am mindful that we're still in the midst of this, and I possibly would suggest that might come after the building control one, because of course we can't judge how things have worked too well yet, because as I say, we're not out of it. We don't know what the challenges are going to be, but yeah, certainly within this year we need to sort of do that piece of work. I think it will be useful. In the meantime, I don't know if there's any way, Guy, of finding out what any of the other neighbouring authorities throughout North Yorkshire, the districts or county, if their scrutiny committees are looking at this, see if we get any sense from them what's going on.
Yeah, I know Harrogate Council, it's certainly something that they're looking at. They've just started a piece of work on the impact on council services. I think we're a bit ahead of the game really in terms of select committee, because I know some of the other authorities, all their resources has gone into sort of managing virtual meetings, and scrutiny's sort of gone on the back burner. And I was very keen for us to keep going with all the good work that we're doing. So in respect of that, there's not a lot else across the other North Yorkshire authorities. I can extend it further and look further afield to see if any other work is doing. But I do know Harrogate are looking at it in terms of the impact on their council services. So we can certainly go away and have a look at what authorities are doing and come back to you.
Yeah, so I'm just mindful towards the back end of this year, you know, the work programme would seem to possibly lend itself, depending on how the building control one goes. I've got Councillor Brown first, then Councillor Morby, Councillor Soloway, then Councillor Shuttleworth. So Councillor Brown.
I was going to suggest I went after them because I've spoken just a bit, so I'll speak after them.
No, it's fine, Andy. It's in order. Whoever puts the hand up gets it. So then I've got Eric at the end.
Just a very quick point then, that it seems to me that there's two kind of ways of looking at the COVID thing. One is to wait till it's all calmed down and then look back on it and form a rational analysis of whether we did well, bad or indifferently and what the impact was. The other, I think, is to try and monitor what we reasonably can without interfering with the actual delivery of the programme, whilst it's actually influenceable. I mean, for instance, I'd be really interested to hear from a couple of small businesses what their experience was of being on the receiving end of our process of handing out the grants. My impression is we got a very good press from those small businesses and deserve to do so, but I'd like to kind of have a feel for what their experience was in some kind of structured way. And similarly, I think it might be worth our while just spending some time with people who've kind of lived through this bit of it so far, saying, what has the experience been like so far? What do we think we could do differently going forward? as and making some recommendations whilst we're still living through it, rather than waiting to the end. I don't know if that makes sense to people.
Yeah, I'm just mindful of what the remit is of Craven District in terms of elements of public services that we're responsible for. You know, clearly, you know, things like emptying the bins and, as you say, commercial rates and so on. And as a result of the commercial rates side of our, you know, function of our council, we've been responsible for distributing the grant funding. As I say, I see your point. I'm just interested to sort of make sure there's enough to go at, and we don't just keep sort of coming back to this or finding that there's not actually enough anecdotal, enough information really to sort of to get a grip on how well we've done. But yeah, I think we could possibly look to put this in after the building control working group. As I say, we're mindful we can only do so many at once, and it'd be good to get that out of the way first and then get onto this, and hopefully that'll feed at the right time. I don't know if any members have got any different views on that. But anyway, I'll go to Councillor Morby next.
Right, it's just something that seems to have cropped up over the last few months, really. I know we've looked at planning enforcement. I really believe that we need to look at the whole planning department. I really do, because I am not very happy with that planning department at all, I'm afraid. So I suggest we go back, and perhaps Brian might share it, or if we decide to have a look, but I think planning really needs looking at. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I mean, obviously members are aware that we have put recommendations in for performance monitoring for the planning department, and I think that when we get those reports back to ourselves, we did ask for that to come back, didn't we, Guy? If memory serves.
Yeah, I was just about to say perhaps the best means of addressing that is we do have, and it's in the work programme, we do have recommendation tracking. And as part of the recommendation tracking process, we will be looking at the review of development control, which was a previous review that we undertook. We'll be tracking all of those recommendations. If when we get the responses back from planning, we're not happy with some of the responses that come back, it's the role of the committee then to invite representatives from planning to come back to the meeting to explain why satisfactory progress hasn't been made. So I suggest perhaps the best means of addressing that would probably be through the recommendation tracking process that we've set up.
Chris, is that okay with yourself? Would that satisfy your immediate concerns?
Yes, it will. Because what I've got to say, I could probably say to council anyway. So yeah,
no,
thank you.
No, that's good. As I say, I think we do need to sort of keep an eye on these, particularly, bearing in mind the issues we've highlighted. We do need to sort of keep monitoring their performance. So thank you for that, Chris. Right, Councillor Soloway.
I thought it was going to be Brian next, but no, I'd like to echo this thing about certain aspects of planning, but I think I want to take a more global view, because we took a decision fairly recently to have a different scheme of delegation for planning, and actually COVID-19 has even forced that even further, so that many more planning decisions are being delegated. And I think that brings a real importance, even more importance, to building control and enforcement than has ever been. Because if you're delegating more decisions, it takes the public perception of that is fair enough. It's been delegated and we don't agree with it, but if you don't then enforce it, so we really need to keep a handle on it. As far as the issue about staffing, that's going to be quite skewed by COVID-19, because quite a number of our staff were self-isolating, but quite a number of our staff were also redeployed to continue to offer the services. So that's going to be quite an interesting review.
Right, thank you. Right, Councillor Shuttleworth, then I've got Councillor Jacklin, and then I've got Councillor Mercer. So Yeah, Councillor Shuttleworth.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yes, you dangled the bait of being chair of building control review. I'm happy to take that and run with it, having been formally involved, although it be many, many years ago. And I think the other point is, yes, we do need to look more closely at the process by which the planning admin is undertaken, because I'm receiving a number of complaints, for want of a better word, that the registration system, I'm talking broad brush here, not just validating planning applications, but the overall processing, the logging on the website, or more accurately, omission from things going on the website. There are a number of issues that clearly need to be looked at to produce an efficient service. So if, see, Councillor Morby's giving me the thumbs up, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And there are a number of other councillors who have suffered similar limitations. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's keep people on the toes.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, yes, the performance review is going to be rather interesting. Right, Councillor Jacquin, you've been waiting very patiently.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Go on. Floor's yours.
Right, thank you very much. I, like all other members, received that press release on the week last Monday, which headlined the bumper year for rural affordable homes. And the press release reported that 370 had been completed in the previous 12 months. But they only included 2 shared ownership homes in Craven. Now, the leader, although Councillor Foster was speaking on behalf of the housing providers, was really encouraged to see such a large number of new rural affordable homes. Well, I was pretty disappointed with them only being 2 in Craven, 245 in Harrogate, and smaller numbers, 10s, 20s, dozens in other parts of North Yorkshire. So at the moment, CDC are landowners, planning authority, strategic housing authority, construction partner, and we're going nowhere. So I'm looking to figure out whether the background reasons and future solutions for this reported lack of affordable housing throughout Craven can be reviewed by select committee, because I think CDC needs positive action to solve or at least alleviate the lack of affordable housing. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I mean, certainly the shared ownership model is dependent on the properties becoming available. As we've looked at this before, housing associations don't tend to prefer that. It's something that actually Craven District's really pushed for, and we are on the, if you like, the list for the affordable units when they come available, but we are only one of many. You know, the others are the housing associations. But I think initially the points you raise would probably be best directed for an answer from Councillor Foster as the leader, and obviously, as I say, he's got a long history of involvement in housing in Craven, so I think he would maybe be a good starting point. Guy, would you think this is something best addressed by Councillor Jacquin directly, or raised with Councillor Foster as a question from Select?
I'm happy to raise it on your behalf, Councillor Jacquin, as a request from the Select Committee. If you'd like us to do that, we'll make sure that we include it as a note in the minutes and report back the response to Select Committee, if that sounds okay.
Is that okay, Eric?
Thank you. I just think that it may have been a correct information in the press release, but it just didn't read very well that only 2 in Craven and 300 plus in the rest of North Yorkshire. And it just feels from the inference there that CDC are not providing affordable housing. Now, I'm just aware that if that goes in the press and is fully reported, we'll get lambasted by other people thinking, I need an affordable house, but I've no chance in Craven because there's only 2 been reported in the last 12 months. And I feel that we need the reasons and potential solutions to make the folks who are looking for affordable housing aware we're doing something. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think, as I say, let's raise a question with the leader and we'll go from there. It may be something that might come going the other way. It might come to spatial planning even as part of the planning policy issue. But thank you for that, Eric. Councillor Mercer.
Thank you, Chair. It seems strange now just following Councillor Yockham there on housing, but really what I wanted to do was hang my hat and coat up on Councillor Moby's suggestion about the planning department. I've got beef with this department as well, and I think it would be good to look further into it. So I'm just offering my support for that.
That's great, thank you. I think, as I say, I think the process that what we set in place, the process is set in place is a good starting point, and as I say, I think certainly that may trigger something to go further. But Councillor Moby, you wish to comment?
Yes, I do. I'm looking at the work programme, and it mentions now recommendation tracking. That isn't till the 17th of March. These planning issues need looking at now, not wait till the 17th of March. Quiet.
Sorry, no, I'm just looking at the schedule. I think we've put a process in place, and while not suggesting that you're wrong in what you're saying, I think we've got to have, anecdotally, we've got to have the evidence there to suggest it. For Select to keep going back at the same point without something to back it up. You look like you want to come in.
Yeah, Chair, if I could just come in. So I was just, sorry for the pause. I was just looking back at the work programme myself. If you look at the 9th of September, I think I have put in, there's 2 recommendation tracking. So it's not just something that's going to happen once a year. If you look at the 9th of September, I've also got recommendation tracking penciled in then as well. So we could include it as an item. Well, there'll be an opportunity for members to review development control at that meeting. So you won't have to wait till March.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Right, any other members wish to comment on this? We're sort of looking at, we're going to have this building control working group first. Councillor Shuttleworth will chair that working group, and then we'll look, following that, we'll be certainly looking to start some sort of review on the COVID-19 response of CDC and the effects. We will obviously hopefully get something back from other scrutiny committees around the piece to sort of understand what they're looking at as well, and that can come back. Do you think that'd be possible to get that back, Guy, for our meeting of the 9th of September?
We can certainly try our best, yeah.
Yeah. Now, crime and disorder. We didn't actually have the crime and disorder meeting that we were hoping to have. I think if members are okay with this, I think if between myself and Guy, if we can try and see if there's any appetite for this being organised, would into next month be possible, early next month? I don't know, Guy, do you think, have you got any comments on that?
We'll have a look. Certainly the calendar of meetings for next month is getting rather busy at the moment. We've got additional planning committee meetings. So to catch up with the backlog, we've agreed extra planning committee meetings in August. We've also got, we're also looking at potentially an additional policy committee meeting, 2 spatial planning meetings. So there's quite a bit of work that's coming up over the next month or so. But I will try and look and see if there was any potential gaps where we might be able to squeeze in a meeting of crime and disorder as best we can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just mindful that otherwise we're looking at the 9th of September, which is a little way off. I mean, I don't know what, sorry, it's 9th of December, sorry. Unless members are happy to leave it that long. I don't know what's the view from the floor. Members? Anybody? Any views? No? Oh, yep. I'll come at once. Right, Councillor Morby.
Yeah, yes, I'm quite happy to leave that. I mean, the police are doing what they can in difficult circumstances, so perhaps we might be better leaving them alone.
Right. Councillor Brown.
I think it's very much a matter of talking to the police, and if it's possible to do it quickly without interfering with their good work, then yes. But if we're going to make it life harder for them in the middle of a crisis, I would suggest that Councillor Morby's right.
Councillor Soloway.
I'm going to say August is normally bereft of meetings. I'll just put a comment about it. I'm with everybody else about police. They've had a really tough job in this COVID pandemic. They've got another. They're complaining about having to enforce face masks in shops now. So I think they've got enough on the plate. And actually, in my opinion, experience, when I've been dealing with kind of lockdown breaches that people have reported to me, the police have actually been really good, and I think they've had a really tough job. I think they'll probably be doing their own reviews about it anyway. So I think we've got more pressing things than bringing the police in. I think we've got some of our own internal things to look at. And I have no problem. August is getting busy. Well, yeah.
Right. Councillor Shuttleworth.
Yeah, thank you. There's just one additional thing about police functions, as it were. And I appreciate they're very busy. They have a totally unenviable job at the moment, but I have been concerned during lockdown, certainly on rural roads, there has been a much higher incidence of speeding with consequent road safety implications, adverse implications. And I would just like to ask really the police what they did about it or are continuing to do about it. If we leave it too late, then I think things might go back to normal. But certainly there were some considerable issues around the time of lockdown when there were much fewer vehicles on the roads.
Thank you. And Councillor Metcalfe.
I think it's really important that we meet up with the police earlier than that. And I take on board that they're busy, but the police are always busy. With what's happening with the pandemic, it probably has taken them off other things where they've been quieter. And I think now is that we need to be meeting up with them, and we need to keep in touch with them for examples that Councillor Shuttleworth has just said. And we're talking about possibly Lorraine Crossman-Smith, one officer, one inspector. Now, I'm sorry, but they should be able to spare the time. We just need to make sure that if we do get them in, we're not wasting the time. And we just need to have a pretty good agenda for them. And I think the continuity with the police is absolutely vital. And I'll take what the police say in response. But those are my thoughts, that we need to keep that continuity. And did you say the 9th of December, the meeting?
That's when the next one would be scheduled, yes.
I mean, you know, the councils, we've always got loads of things to do on the council. And if we're not busy, we're not doing our jobs right. So my suggestion would be, okay, we can't fit it in August, but why don't we get a date booked in September? because I think December is too long.
Yeah. Right. Guy, could you get a view from Stacey Reffin? Obviously, she's our contact with the police, and maybe that might just help clarify the position. Because, I mean, if we do have a meeting in September, for example, crime and disorder, we can always put back the next meeting into January, so they're not too close together, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the moment, as it stands, we've got we've got absence management and we've got the recommendation tracking item scheduled for September. So, I mean, there may be some potential if we're really specific about the type of focus we want for crime and disorder, that you could run with 2 meetings. So you could have the crime and disorder element first. So Inspector Crossman-Smith could attend for that bit, so she's not waiting around for the next part of the meeting. And then you could run into the actual select committee meeting where we then discuss recommendation tracking and absence management. And that may also give the police a little bit more time to prepare their response and be ready for that meeting, because as it stands, they're not aware of a meeting taking place over the next few weeks. I don't know what the committee thinks about.
I think that sounds fairly logical. If any members have got any objections to that, please raise your hand. Otherwise, silence is golden. Thank you very much indeed. I think we've got an accord on that one. Right, so working programme. I think we've got something to go on. I think the issues raised about the planning department's performance, as we've said, can be raised at the next performance review, and we need to then look at scheduling the working group for building control. 28th of October would appear to be a next working group session. Is that going to be too far away, or would we prefer sooner? Councillor Shuttleworth, I'm looking to you, as you would be potentially chairing that, unless any members have got an objection to that. I'll just unmute. Yep, go.
Yeah, I'd like it earlier rather than later, particularly in view of the, well, rather a bombshell you dropped that 2 members of the three-member team building control department are moving on. Now, if we're not careful, the department is going to flounder, and a lot of work undertaken which isn't properly checked and maybe susceptible to being passed to the general public in a safety deficient manner, which could raise questions. I'd like something slotting in between for the working party, certainly, and to learn about the present situation, because it's the first I'd heard of it this evening.
Guy, have you got any suggestions what might work, do you think?
I think the best thing that I can do is if I go away, I mean, there's a lot to go at this evening. So there's various information updates, various requests for information. We've got, I think we've established a couple of sort of key areas that we want to focus on in terms of areas of review, the recommendation tracking and everything else. I think probably the best thing I can do is if I come up with a draft work schedule based on the discussions tonight, and then email it round all the members. And then if you see what you think about that, and we can always tweak it and make any changes as we see fit.
Yeah, I think that would sound a good idea. Any members got any issues with that at all, or is everybody happy bunnies? I'm not seeing any hands being raised to suggest that you've got comment to make, so we'll take that as read. Right. Well, if that's the case, then agenda item 8, which is date and time of the next meeting, which at this moment in time is provisionally the 9th of September, but that may be subject to change depending on what we come up with the work programme. We would then move to item 9, which is any other items of business. Members, go all look at the ceiling, on the floor. There's no. I'm taking that we're concluding tonight's business. So yes. Oh, hold on, Councillor Morby, in at the last. Just nearly caught me there.
You're all right. I caught myself by surprise, really. It's just a comment on what Councillor Shuttleworth Bryan said about the police and the speeding. If I can just come back to that a little bit. There was quite an article in a double-page article in the Craven Herald about the policing and how appalled the police were by Sergeant Stringer did the report, and yes, it was quite amazing reading that article in the Craven Herald about the stupidity, and even I've noticed it now that even though the lockdown has been eased, the traffic is still going as faster than what it was before the lockdown, considerably faster. So yes, I just thought I'd comment on that. If anybody hasn't seen the Craven Herald article, it is quite interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morby. I think, I think the quieter roads in some ways actually encourage people to drive faster because they feel as though they can do. So, yeah, let's hope things busy up a bit. You never know. Right, that I think will conclude tonight's meeting. Thank you for your attendance, members. I know in these slightly strange times, these Zoom meetings don't always flow, but thank you for your patience on that. Councillor Jacqueline, I'll look forward to you getting your new IT with your raise hand function and the ability to use that. And thank you, Hannah, for your report. Much appreciated. Thank you, Guy, once again for your help. And at that, we shall conclude the meeting. And good night.
Night all.